Okay, y'all, this is the census. I'm trying to talk loud again. Um, this honestly is just knowing the disorders and diseases and knowing the pathway of vision and knowing your pathway of hearing. If you don't complicate that, um, it should come pretty easy as far as like to start memorizing, and then as you learn a little more, connecting it. One thing I want y'all to understand is, even though we say, memorize, but you should start with memorization, and then you kind of move into understanding. Once you kind of get used to the terminology, you memorize that, and move into understanding, right? But you're going to, whatever you're kind of iffy on, or we're not telling you just memorize and don't be safe and get through. It's like give yourself some grace as you move through the terms, term 2, term 3, term 4, term 5. Things are going to come together as well. You're most likely not going to get every single thing here, but as you move into med surg and you start learning respiratory, say respiratory was a little difficult here in A&P, then maybe once you hit respiratory diseases and disorders, that it may come together at that point for you. So give yourself some grace. Understand that, to start, you do kind of need to memorize this. But you need to keep reviewing it so that you can slowly start to understand the verbiage and the material and start applying it. And this way you can understand. But understand that you are going to move through all these terms and things are going to connect. Dots are going to connect as well. Okay. Okay, so this is all about our senses. We have sensory receptors. Remember, things that come in, that bring things in. Receptors are things that receive. Sensory receptor structure specialized at detecting stimulus. Some combine with muscle and tissue. Most consist of specialized nerve cells or nerve endings. Your sensory receptors transmit information by the type of stimulus, location of stimulus, intensity of stimulus. We have different receptors that detect different things. I'm going to go over here real quick. General sense organs. General sense organs often exist as individual cells or receptor units. So these are general. They are individual cells, widely distributed, so all over throughout the body. And they're different from special sense organs. Your sense organs, special sense organs, are groupings of receptors within highly complex organs. So your special sense organs are large and complex organs, or localized grouping of these receptors. Your sensory receptor types are classified by whether they have a capsule or don't have a capsule. Your sensory receptors, classification by type of stimulus required to activate the receptor. So these right here, your photoreceptors are going to detect light, so they're going to control the light, those cells. Your chemoreceptors are going to assist in chemicals, so that's going to be like your taste, right? Everything we eat breaks down chemically. Things that we smell break down chemically, so those are going to be your chemoreceptors. Pain receptors, or your nociceptors, pain and nociceptors, okay? This detects during injury to your tissue, when you bump your knee, when you cut your arm, things like that, things that's going to hurt. Your thermoreceptors are temperature changes. Your mechanoreceptors involve movement, which we'll get to that. Your proprioceptors can tell the change in your position of your body. If you were to close your eyes and someone was to come over and lift your right arm, without opening your eyes, you would be able to say, okay, my right arm has been abducted from my body. It is mid-air to my right lateral. Mid-air up, something like that. But you would know where your arm is even with your hands, with your eyes closed. So that's your proprioceptors, knowing where your body is, each body part, your fingers, your arms, your legs, things like that. Sensory pathways. All sense organs have common functional characteristics. All are able to detect a particular stimulus. So each of these detects a different stimulus. This detects, again, temperature. This detects pain. This detects light. This detects your body movement. This detects chemicals. A nerve. So all are able to detect a particular stimulus. A stimulus is then converted into a nerve impulse. We just learned the nervous system, right? The nerve impulse has to deal with chemical messengers or neurotransmitters, right? So when these receptors are stimulated, when these cells are stimulated, they send a nerve impulse, and that nerve impulse goes through your sensory to your spinal cord to your brain. A nerve impulse is perceived as a sensation in the CNS. All right, my general sense organs. Distribution is widespread throughout the body. They are single cell receptors, and they're pretty common. You've got your skin receptors, right? You've got free nerve endings, pain, discriminative touch, tickle, and temperature. Pain, pressure, touch, stretch, and temperature involve receptors widely distributed in your skin, muscles, tendons, joints, and viscera. Okay, you've got tactile corpuscles. These deal with, they sense fine touch and vibration. If you also, let me find it in your book. I keep trying my best to follow along in your book. If you look at page 298 and 299, table 11.1 and table 11.2, you need to know these tables, or at least go ahead and study them. In table 11.2, it'll tell you your sense organ is your eye, your specific receptor is your rods and cones, and these stimulate your photoreceptors. This deal with vision. Your ear has spiral organ of your spiral organ or your organ of corti. These have mechanoreceptors, which again deal with movement, balance, and your sense is hearing. They also have crista ampullaris, which also stimulates mechanoreceptors. They also contain maculae, which also stimulate mechanoreceptor cells. Your nose has olfactory cells to stimulate your chemoreceptors, and your taste buds are gustatory cells. And these, again, stimulate your chemoreceptors, and they deal with taste. Okay, I'm sorry, I went off. So back to your, if you look on page 299, you'll see figure 11.1 at the bottom, which is the skin. It'll show you your bulboid corpuscle, your lamellar corpuscle, your tactile corpuscle, and your bulbous corpuscle. Okay, right here again. I thought, oh, right here. Oh, okay. So in table 11.1, it tells you right there your bulboid corpuscle. The main location is in skin in your dermal layer. So your dermis, which is your middle layer, it deals with touch and cold, possibly cold. Your lamellar corpuscle is located in your subcutaneous or submucous and your subserous tissues around your joints, some of your mammary glands, and this deal with pressure and high frequency vibrations. Your tactile corpuscles are located in your skin, your dermis, and your fingertips and your lips. They deal with fine touch and low vibrations. Your bulbous corpuscles are located in your dermis and your subcutaneous tissue, and they deal with touch and pressure. You also have muscle receptors. Your proprioceptors, yes. So this located in your tendon in your organ, or your Golgi tendon organ. It is near the junction of tendons and muscles, and it deals with proprioception. And then muscle spindle. It is located in your skeletal muscles and it deals with proprioception, which again is knowing where your body is, your body parts. Deep receptors deal with stretch receptors and hollow organs. Chemical receptors detect pH, carbon dioxide, and other chemicals. Oh, I like that. Disorders of your general senses. You got third-degree burns, can completely destroy general sense receptors throughout the affected area. Temporary impairment, general sense receptors occurs when blood flow to them is slow. So anytime we slow down blood, things are not going to heal properly and cells and tissues are going to start dying off. You need to know your general senses. This includes pain, pressure, touch, stretch, and temperature. Okay, so real quick, if we go through pain, this is known as your nociceptors. They consist of free nerve endings that carry pain impulses to the brain. Receptors are abundant in the skin. Nerve fibers that carry pain impulses from your nociceptors to the brain can be either fast or slow. I'll send this to y'all as well. Our special senses. Y'all need to know your general senses and your special senses, okay? Your special senses include taste, smell, hearing, equilibrium, which is your balance, and vision. These are receptors grouped together or clustered in specialized organs. Let me see if I have. Okay, I'm thinking I would have a box with special and general. Okay, so your general senses include pain, as well as sensations of pressure, touch, stretch, and temperature. You need to know that. Your special senses include your taste, your smell, your hearing, your equilibrium, and your vision. Okay, we're going to go on to the eye. Let me see if I can find that on this in your book for you. Oh, perfect. 301, 300, 301. Okay, you need to know your layers of your eyeball. Your sclera is a tough outer coat. It is the white of the eye. If you look in your book, the white of the eye is part of the fibrous layer called your sclera. And if you look at the picture and you find the, let me see if we have a picture here. Where's my eye? Here we go. Okay, you see your sclera. It's a tough fibrous, right? It goes just about all around, supposed to be white. You got your cornea, which is transparent part of your sclera over the iris. Where's our cornea? So your sclera and then your cornea is that top layer. It is transparent, meaning it is clear, and it is part of your sclera. So you see how the sclera starts over here, and we can see the white of the eye, but then as it covers, it becomes the cornea. Choroid is a pigmented vascular layer, prevents scattering of light. Vascular means full of blood vessels, whether it be arteries and veins. Choroid, right there, is located right there. Front part of this layer is made of your ciliary muscle and your iris. The iris is the color part of the eye. Your brown, your blue, your green. The pupil is the hole in the center of the iris. Contraction of the iris muscle dilates or constricts the muscle. So looking here again, you got your cornea and you got your sclera, and come up here, you got your cornea. Okay, you in here you have the chamber. A chamber is like a hollow cavity almost, and it contains fluid. It contains your aqueous humor fluid, which is a watery substance. Next is going to be your iris, which is the color part. Then it's going to be your pupil, which is right here behind the iris, in the iris. And remember, it's a hole. You got your ciliary muscle. Your ciliary muscle is what's used in accommodation. You know how we, in physical assessment, we have them move, follow it with their eyes, and we come forward. That's due to your ciliary muscle. That is what controls that. Ciliary muscle, sclera, choroid, your retina. Your retina is located way deep inside, more towards the back, right? Your optic disc, which is a blind spot. You've got your optic nerve. This is what carries signals to the brain. Of remember, we feel, or it's a sense, right? We see something, we hear something, we taste something, we smell something, we feel something, anything like that, and it brings signals to our brain, to our spinal cord, and to our brain. Our optic nerves, once our cells in our eye, which are rods and cones are photoreceptors. Those are located in our retina. Once the rods and cones are stimulated by light, it sends an electrical impulse down your optic nerve, which we'll get to. I'm sorry, I just kind of got ahead of myself. I really encourage y'all to kind of read this on page 300 and 301. It's just going to break things down for you. The conjunctiva is a mucous membrane. Remember, a mucous membrane lines things. Your mucous membrane should be pink, moist, intact, or at least moist and intact. This lines the eyelids, right? The under eyelid and the eyelid itself. This is how we get conjunctivitis, because itis means inflammation. So the conjunctiva gets inflamed, and it gets infected and inflamed, and we start draining stuff. So that's conjunctivitis. Your lacrimal gland is what creates your tears and keeps your eye, your whole eye moist. It also, when we get things in our eye that we're not supposed to have, or our body's trying to get rid of, it will make more tears. Our nasal passageway drains into our lacrimal gland. Hence why when we are stuffy and things, we end up crying. Tears are building up from all the pressure. Or why when we cry, we feel more stuffy and things like that, because it's all connected. Okay, moving on to page 302. So now to move on to the inner layer. Again, you've got your retina, which is the inner layer. So I'm going to read real quick on page 302. The retina makes up most of the inner layer of the eyeball. It contains photoreceptors. Remember, photoreceptors are cells. They detect light. These are located in your retina. Okay, these are called rods and cones. Dim light can stimulate your rods, and bright light will stimulate your cones. There are three kinds. This is the second paragraph under inner layer on page 302. There are three kinds of cones. Each is sensitive to a different color: red, green, and blue. Scattered throughout the central portion of the retina, these three types of cones allow us to distinguish between different colors. So red, green, and blue. Okay. Your retina, in the most layer, contains your rods and cones. Mucous membrane covering the front surface. Lens is a transparent body behind the pupil. So your lens is transparent behind your pupil, sits behind your pupil, and it focuses light rays on your retina. So your pathway of the light when we look at it. Your innermost layer of the retina contains rods and cones. Impulse travels from the rods and cones through the bipolar ganglionic layers of the retina. Nerve impulse leaves the eye through your optic nerve. The point of exit is free of receptors and is therefore called a blind spot. Let me find this in your book. Okay, in your book on page 303 under visual pathway, light is a stimulus that results in vision besides it. Okay, second paragraph. Light enters the eye through the pupil. It is refracted, meaning it is bent. So we see the light, it hits our pupil constricts or dilates, right? The light is bent so that it is focused on the retina. When the light, next paragraph, when the light reaches the innermost layer of your photoreceptor cells, they respond to a light stimulus by producing a nerve impulse. The rod and cone cells synapse with the neurons in the bipolar ganglionic layers of the retina. Nerve impulses eventually leave the retina and exit the eye through the optic nerve, which is your cranial nerve 3. No rods or cones are present in this area, and this is known as your blind spot or your optic disc. Okay, so disorders. Okay, disorders, look on page 304. You got myopia, which is nearsightedness. You got hyperopia, which is farsightedness. You got astigmatism, which is your cornea or your lens is misshaped, and so it causes things to be a little blurry, to look a little funny. So they have to wear glasses for it to assist in that vision. Presbyopia literally means old-sightedness. You got cataracts. Long time, I'm looking on page 305, cataracts. In some individuals, long-time exposure to UV radiation in the sunlight may cause the lens to become hard. It's going to lose its transparency, meaning it's not clear anymore, and it's going to look cloudy and have regions that become milky or cloudy in appearance, right? It's called cataracts. So the lens is starting to get, instead of being transparent and clear, it's starting to get cloudy in different parts of that lens. Eventually, the whole thing will become cloudy and it's going to obstruct your vision, and you can become blind. There is surgery for that. Conjunctivitis, again, that is inflammation of your membrane, your conjunctiva. Your strabismus on page 306, strabismus is going to be that cross-eyed, you know how we call people cross-eyed? That's going to be strabismus. Okay, looking at our eye fluid. So in our aqueous humor, in the anterior cavity in front of the lens, we have aqueous humor. It is a watery substance. Behind the lens is another chamber, and is called, in the posterior cavity behind the lens contains vitreous humor, and that is a jelly-like substance. So your aqueous humor is located in front of your lens, right? In that anterior cavity, it's a watery substance. Your vitreous humor is located behind the lens, in a cavity behind the lens, and it is a jelly-like, thicker jelly-like substance. What's the other one I'm looking for? Not cataracts. What's it? Glaucoma. Glaucoma is when there's pressure in the aqueous humor. Aqueous humor is either overproduction and our body can't get rid of it fast enough, or there's a blockage. Typically, it's a blockage in the drainage system, and so the aqueous humor accumulates, causing pressure, causing detachment and things like that, or disturbances in our vision. Here we go. So you got your myopia, nearsightedness, hyperopia, farsightedness. Astigmatism is when distortion caused by an irregular of your cornea or lens is misshapen. Your cataracts are cloudy spots in your transparent lens. Okay, we went through those. Okay, disorders of my retina. Retinal detachment can be complication of aging, eye tumors, or head trauma. It's something that's pushing the retina away from the rest of the eye, so it's detaching. okay? And that's going to, usually is pressure, or it's heavy, you know, it just starts to detach. Diabetic retinopathy is damage to the retina from hemorrhages and growth of abnormal vessels associated with diabetes mellitus. Our blood becomes real thick, and sometimes our vessels, our blood pressure goes up because it can't handle trying to push all that. So when you have blood pressure, when you have that thick blood, it causes a lot of, your heart's closer to your head and your eyes. So when your heart has to pump that fast, the vessels in your eye are real thin, they're real sensitive. So sometimes they start to pop. And that can damage the retina as well. Glaucomas increase intraocular pressure. It decreases blood flow in the retina. So glaucoma is that pressure from the aqueous humor, which is also going to, because of the pressure, things are pushed, right? And it's going to squeeze things. This is, yes, thin, but it's thick. So when things are pushing on it, it's going to squeeze it together. And there's going to be less blood flow to the retina, to the nerve, to different areas of the eye. Age-related macular degeneration is progressive degeneration of your central part of your retina. So your retina starts to go bad in the middle. Color blindness, most forms inherited, is red-green. Color blindness is an X-link, meaning we have XX or XY. And color blindness is located on that X. I believe, I gotta look it up again, but I believe males are XX, so they're double likely to be colorblind, because it can be on either of those X's. That defective gene can be on either of those X's. And with women, we have XY. We only have that half chance of it being on that X. It is caused by an abnormality in the cones and photopigments. Disorders of your visual pathways. So scotoma is the loss of only the central visual field when only the nerve pathways are damaged. A CVA, which is a stroke, can damage visual processing, again from the pressure, and from things being weakened. All right, moving on to our ear. Again, this part is memorization. Memorizing all the parts. So your external ear, your middle ear, your inner ear, and then knowing the pathway of sound. Real quick, process of vision. Light focuses on the retina and produces an upside down image. Rods and cones convert that image to nerve impulses, and then impulses are transmitted to the brain. Oh, I forgot. Ear was ahead of the eye. Okay. So you got your external ear. The thing that separates your external ear from your middle ear is your tympanic membrane. Your middle ear, what separates your middle ear from your external ear is your tympanic membrane. What separates your middle ear from your inner ear is your oval window. Okay, so you have the auricle pinnacle. This is where a lot of us like to get that piercing. We have a tragus. There's where a lot of y'all have that piercing. And then we have the external acoustic canal. That is when we're doing our head-to-toe assessment. We're telling you to look in here for ear infections. The skin is going to be red. It's going to be inflamed. There might be drainage coming out of here, right? A lot of times, depending on where you work, if you work in urgent care, you're going to have to, and they come in with ear pain, you're going to look in that ear with an otoscope, and you're going to be able to see if that membrane is attached or not, and whether it's inflamed or not, whether it's red or not. And that comes with just life experience, just going out there and looking at ears. Okay, so then you've got your tympanic membrane. This separates your outer ear from your inner ear, okay? Middle ear. So now you've got your middle ear. Sorry, y'all, excuse me, I'm tired. You've got your inner ear, your middle ear, I'm sorry. Your middle ear contains your auditory ossicles. Remember, OSS means bones. So we've got 3 small bones in our ears. These are the smallest bones in our body. Your malleus is first, and your malleus is kind of connected to your tympanic membrane. Your incus is connected to your malleus, your stapes is connected to your incus, and your stapes is also connected to your oval window. These bones are involved in the vibration of sound. Without these bones, we would not be able to transmit sound from the outer ear to the middle ear, from the middle ear to the inner ear. Okay, you've also got your auditory tube. This is connected, this drains into your, I don't want to say your hard palate, but from the top. This drains from the top all the way in the back of your throat. And this is why we get a lot of ear infections, or kids are susceptible to ear infections and strep throat. Because in kids, this is very short and it connects from your ear to your throat, right? So if a child has strep throat, that infection can easily move up to the ear, cause an ear infection. Vice versa, if there's an ear infection, it can easily move down to the throat, causing strep throat or just a throat infection. Okay, usually strep throat. Okay, then you got your inner ear. It gets a little more complicated in here. You got semicircular canals, which is here. They're not complete circles. They're semi. You got here, you got here, you got here. Then you've got your oval window, again, separates your middle ear from your inner ear. You've got your facial nerve, which is cranial nerve 7. That controls a lot of your facial expressions. You've got your let me pronounce this. Vestibulocochlear nerve, which is cranial nerve 8. This consists of your vestibular nerve and your cochlear nerve coming together to send, once we hear that sound, it transmits that sound into an electrical impulse, sending it to our spinal cord, to our brain, because it's a cranial nerve. So directly from the brain. Then you've got your vestibule and your cochlea. Your cochlea looks like this little snail right here. Okay, we just went through that. Here we go, right here. There's swelling. See, so that's an infection. There's cerumen. Okay, that's earwax. Your middle ear epithelium line cavity. It has your ossicles, your 3 ossicles. It ends in an oval window. You have your eustachian tube. Back 15 years ago, it was the eustachian tube. They changed it to auditory. Ear infection of the middle ear. Your inflammation is called otitis media. Itis. Inflammation of your ear. Media is your middle ear. Inner ear contains your bony labyrinth filled with perilymph. This is a fluid. It assists in balance. Okay, peri means around. Subdivided into, so your bony labyrinth filled with lymph is divided into your vestibule, your semicircular canals, and your cochlea. You got a membranous labyrinth filled with endolymph. So again, this is peri, around. This is kind of like fluid almost inside. The receptors for balance are located in your semicircular canals, and they're called cristae ampullaris. So just like our eyes, right, our photoreceptors are located in the retina, and those are your rods and cones. Here, your mechanoreceptors, or your receptors, are for balance, and these are located in your semicircular canals, and they're called cristae ampullaris. Sensory hair cells on your organ of Corti respond when bent by the movement of the surrounding endolymph. So your hairs, and your lymph all play a role. That fluid all play a role in our balance. Yeah. Right here, make sure you look at this picture, okay? There's your oval window separating our middle ear from our inner ear. So when we hear sound, it comes in, and it comes in as vibration. It vibrates the tympanic membrane, which vibrates the malleus. That vibration is carried all the way through the stapes. That vibration vibrates the oval window, and then that carries into your inner ear, where it deals with your perilymph, your endolymph, your hairs. not that, where the sound travels through and then out into that cranial nerve 8 to be able to turn the sound into nerve impulses. No, there's a hair cells. Okay. So equilibrium is your balance. Mechanoreceptors for our sense of balance are in the sac-like vestibule and the 3 semicircular canals. So your mechanoreceptors are located in our 3 semicircular canals. We see our circles here. Okay. Static equilibrium, and then dynamic equilibrium. And you see these are being still and they're also moving. If those weren't moving with us, we would lose our balance. We would feel dizzy. All right, hearing disorders. Conduction impairments can be caused by blockage of external or middle ear by ceruminal tumors. I think I told y'all at Cook's, patients would come in. We would have to do ear lavages. They would say, "Oh, it's my left ear, it feels full. I can't hear very good." And they would say, "Huh? Can you repeat yourself? Huh? I can't hear you." Then we would lavage it. I would wash it out, and they would look like the cerumen coming out would look like wisdom teeth. They were big, and then they would be like, "Oh my God, my ear feels weird. I can hear. Stop yelling." Granted, I'm still talking the same at the same volume as I was. It's just been cleared out. There's no blockage. So now they can hear better. Your otosclerosis, osis means condition, inherited bone disorder involving irregularity of your stapes. It first appears as tinnitus or ringing and then progresses to hearing loss. Remember, our 3 bones are involved in the vibration of sound. They carry that vibration so that the impulse can be sent to our brain. Otitis, itis, inflammation. Nerve impairments is presbycusis, progressive nerve deafness associated with aging. Our nerves stop working as well, as good, not sending the signals like they should. Progressive nerve deafness can also result from chronic exposure to loud noise. So all them earphones we be wearing and having real loud is damaging our hairs, is damaging the mechanoreceptors, is damaging all of that in our ears. Equilibrium, often characterized by vertigo. Vertigos is kind of like almost like dizziness, but with imbalance. Disorientation, falling, dizziness, or lightheadedness. Some are caused by infection or inflammation of your inner ear. Meniere's disease is a chronic ear disorder characterized by tinnitus, which is ringing of the ear, nerve deafness, and vertigo. Something's off with our balance, so we feel dizzy. All right, taste. Taste receptors are chemoreceptors. Anything we eat will break down into chemicals. So chemoreceptors, called taste buds. Our cranial nerves 7 and 9 carry gustatory impulses. Gustatory cells is what deals with our taste buds. Okay, in order for us to taste, we have gustatory cells, which carries the impulses to our brain. They stimulate your chemoreceptors. Okay, and our gustatory cells let me not say that. Taste receptors or chemoreceptors called taste buds. Cranial nerves 7 and 9 carry the gustatory impulses. So gustatory cells is what detects taste. Okay, these gustatory cells are your chemoreceptors in your mouth. They are your taste buds, and they detect that taste, and the gustatory sends an impulses to the brain. Original 4 kinds of taste are your sweet, sour, bitter, salty. I believe they come up with another one that's called umami or something. Gustatory and olfactory senses work together. Gustatory is taste, olfactory is smell. Okay, we have our taste buds or our gustatory cells. Okay, just like it says right there. And these are our nerves. Our nerves are located in our gustatory cells, in our chemoreceptors. Once it tastes it, it sends it up the nerve into our brain. Smell receptors for fibers of olfactory nerve, cranial nerve 1, lying olfactory mucosa of nasal cavity. Olfactory receptors are extremely sensitive but easily fatigued, which is why a lot of times we don't smell our own house, because we walk in, we smell it, and we're, oh, that smells good, or oh, that don't smell so good. And after a couple minutes, we don't smell it anymore. That's because they get tired out very easily. We get used to it. Olfactory receptors, odor causing chemicals initiate a nervous signal that is interpreted as a specific odor by the brain. So again, it is our olfactory receptors that detect that smell, which contains nerves, and those nerves are carried to our brain, directly to our brain, bypassing the spinal cord, because these cranial nerves arise directly from the brain. Make sure y'all know this, okay? Senses are all, oh, we're done. Perceived by the brain, all incoming signals are integrated with other sensory signals, and even memories. Several nasal congestion can interfere with stimulation of olfactory receptors, preventing foods from having full flavor. Advancing age often brings a structural degeneration. Okay, understand your semicircular canals assist with movement, right, and balance. Okay, you need to know your special senses and your general senses. I went over that just now. Your chemoreceptors are your taste buds and your smell. They deal with gustatory is your taste, and your olfactory is your smell. Okay, part of your we talked about that. I talked about that. Okay, yeah, that's it.